Hey there, this is Andrew, and I'm going to bring you right now a review of all the decks that made top 8 at a Worlds qualifying uh, Keyforge Archon event so far this year. That was a mouthful. To say it a different way, we're going to look at the Archon decks that made top 8 in the Archon event at the Philly Vault Tour, US Nationals, the Roseville Vault Tour, and the Seattle Vault Tour. Now we have several other Nationals events coming up soon. We have Dallas coming up soon, and then Las Vegas, and then also Firenze, and I'm probably saying that wrong, but the Vault Tour in Italy, and then one in, I think it's in Singapore. So that'll be exciting to see what comes out of those two, and I'll see if I can squeeze in time doing reviews of those as we get there. Okay, so let's get started with the Philly Vault Tour. So let's see, where are my notes? So the winner in Philly was Flaming Hobo running Miss Minity the Supernatural Traveler. And by the way, I haven't seen all of these decks, so some of these you get to see my raw reaction. But for others like Miss Minity, I had played against this one in person. I know decently well. Actually, my daughter borrowed it for an event. So, all right. Anyway, Miss Minity the Supernatural Traveler is a Coda deck, and it is Dis, Logos, and Mars. The cool combo in Mars is 2 battle fleets and a key abduction. There is some other stuff as well that can generate amber, but really that is the core of it, is the 2 battle fleets and the key abduction, which you could imagine could potentially get into an OTK, a one-turn kill type scenario where you forge all 3 keys in one turn. Now, that's hard to do with Battlefleet, especially with only 2 battle fleets, because in order for this to work, let's say you are halfway through your deck and you have 2 battle fleets, key abduction, 3 other Mars cards in your hand, right? You play the first battle fleet, you're going to draw 5 cards. Let's say all 5 cards are Mars. You're going to play your second battle fleet and you're going to draw 9 cards. That's 14 cards total. But it's a little tough to hope that you get through the deck that way. So it's actually hard to get into that loop with this combo. Now, with just the battle fleet key abduction, and so that's not the whole thing. Over here in Logos, the ideal is to have a turn with library access, actually, where you play library access, which purges itself but says that for the remainder of the turn, each time you play another card, you draw a card. There are 2 wild wormholes in this deck, so that'll get you 2 card draws for each of those you play, and then some other nice Logos cards as well. But then Phase Shift can let you play a battle fleet. And just imagine you're halfway through your library access turn and you Phase Shift battle fleet. Let's say you can show 5 Mars cards now. Well, you draw 1 card just from playing the Phase Shift, another card from playing the battle fleet, and then you show 5 and draw 5 more. So it actually kind of multiplies the effect of those battle fleets and makes it much more likely that you can get into a situation where you have your whole deck in your hand and can successfully loop. And even if you don't immediately, let's say you play both battle fleets and you don't immediately get to the point where you no longer have other cards, you don't have your whole deck in your hand, you might be able to play a few more Logos cards to get back into the battle fleets and the Phase Shift. And then once you do have your whole deck in your hand, probably a 3rd battle fleet is going to be enough to accomplish, you have your whole deck in your hand. At that point, you can phase shift, key abduction, which will forge you a key for free, and that'll actually draw you back into the phase shift because of the library access, and then phase shift, which will draw you back into the key abduction, which will draw you back into the phase shift and forge you your second key, phase shift, which will draw you back into your key abduction, and then the final key abduction. And now you've used phase shift 6 times, but that's enough. So anyway, that's how that can go. It's pretty cool. And there's more support for it, right? There's Mother that just helps you draw more cards. There's Library of the Damned that can help you set up archives. 2 Control the Weaks and a Restringuntus and Ember Imp are pretty substantial to slow your opponent down. And then Annihilation Ritual is actually pretty interesting in this deck because it thins out those creatures, which makes it so that there's less to draw through to get back into the battle fleets. So it's a pretty interesting deck. It does really well. And yeah, it won that Vault Tour. Okay. The runner-up was Kokujin 87 running Countess Bullseye Thane. This one I'm not so familiar with. It's a Worlds Collide deck. That's fun. And I see the first thing I notice is 3 Exhumes. So I'm looking at what are we going to exhume? Well, Infernus is pretty good to exhume. The Igors are good to exhume. That'll get you through to your other tools pretty quickly. And cards like Spartasaur is going to make it pretty interesting, pretty hard for your opponent to stay on the board. You have some Amber control in 4 information exchanges. That's and a cutthroat research. So that's pretty heavy there. And some tributes as well with exile. So that's a pretty cool trick. Now, interesting because yeah, those are cool tricks, and then I guess you're relying on some speed to get back around to them. And Hysteria is very interesting as well. So you probably, I mean, realistically, you get a lot of Infernus play here. So there's an interesting question about how much value you get there. And then, yeah, 2 tributes with Exile seems pretty brutal. Oh, and a Regrettable Meteor, so you can probably kill whatever you tributed on the same turn. Okay, that's pretty cool. And kudos, SAS isn't perfect, but kudos getting to the top table with 77 SAS. That's a nice swag move. I mean, the deck's good, so and I'm sure well piloted. All right. Next, in the top 4, we have now. So those 2, by the way, Flaming Hobo and Kokujin 87, got invitations to go to Worlds from getting top 2 there. Next, we have in the top 4, we have Big Z playing Pink Jacket, Tadu's City Dream Chaser. And this one is a Mass Mutation deck with Dis, Logos, and Untamed. It also has an Infernus, this one with an Amber Pip on itself. There's a 2 Marks of Dis. That's pretty interesting control with Gateway to Dis and Dance of Doom, so strong creature control there. A Waking Nightmare. Poor little Soul Fiddle. Looks like a pretty fast Logos here. An auto encoder with 2 Demo bots, which is great because if they stay on the board, they reap and trigger the auto encoder. If they're destroyed, you steal 1. That's pretty good. A couple infomorphs, so we have a lot of draw pips. A Redacted to forge a key for free eventually. That's pretty cool. An Effervescent Principle for Amber control. 2 Reclaimed by Natures for artifact control. Maybe you even hit your own Ritual of the Hunt because it has an extra Amber and draw pip. That's pretty good. We've got a Demo Beast for a destroyed Seal 1 and Techno Beast. So if that stays on the board, it can also trigger the auto encoder. I might not be super excited about the 2 Song of the Wild, but there's a Ghost Hawk, so That seems really good. A lot of amber generation, pretty good speed. Seems like a good deck. All right, moving on to the other top four. Grishhammer playing Burglar Sea Eagle Plate, which is also mass mutation. And here we have an Ultra Graviton, which is going to do a lot of archiving when it comes out. Cronus, only 4 drop hips in the deck and only one of them in Logos, but that could still be pretty good. An auto encoder, 2 daughters, that's cool. Letho, did I say 2 effervescence? That's pretty interesting. Amber control. In shadows, we have 3 rad pennies, 1 with a draw pip. That's great. The booby traps, there's 2 of them. You might even use those on the rad pennies. And then over in Star Alliance, we have Tachyon Pulse for some artifact control. Army Officer Nell, will that do much drawing? Explo Rover, Secure Droid, Access Denied, Blast Shielding Stunner. Yeah, probably. And some more creature control, rather. 2 red alerts, Quintrino Flux, Hadron Collision. Yeah, very nice. Got a subtle auto in there for good measure. All right, yeah, seems fast. 19 speed and pretty decent amber control. 15 amber control. Yeah, you're probably playing those rad pennies a lot. Cool. Okay, on to the top 8. We have Mike Fooney with Trader Daniel Cottonharm. This is a Winds of Exchange deck with a Prospector token, so you're going to get a lot of draws. We see a couple Ragnarok preps for Amber control, potentially Stratos Max to creature control and make Prospectors, 2 Brick Nasties, Nurbor Flamewing, Krog the Clumsy to Shock Herder, Fresh Marks, Brawlin. So some Amber generation, a lot of token generation, and a little bit Amber control in Brobnar. And then in Equidon, we have Closed Door Negotiation for potentially a lot of steel. 2 exchange programs, which are interesting for messing things up. Haven't seen, it doesn't look like we have a lot of capture here. So, no, we have Trading Frenzy. Yeah, so Trading Frenzy exchange program is pretty brutal. It can essentially be the equivalent of gain 1, capture 3, steal 3 if you can land it right. Oh yeah, and Shrewd Investor also very good with exchange programs. So yeah, that seems like a great Equidon. And then in Unfathomable, some Kamalanis for more token generation. Timothy with 2 draw pips, and if Timothy stays on the board, your opponent's just not going to forge because there's enough token generation here. Crushing Deep for some more Amber control. Very interesting. And what is Weak Link? Oh yeah, while this creature is exhausted, your keys cost +6. Very interesting. I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of interesting because keeping your opponent's creature exhausted for a really long time is tough unless you have Under Pressure, which this does not. But still seems great. Looks like a fun deck. All right, next is Admiral Inslaying the Pink Fraud. Sath loves their pink decks. And this one is another Coda Mars Logos. This one has shadows instead of discs. So less on the player control, although Lights Out is a good player control card, and Miasma can do okay too. But overall, less on the player control, more on the Amber control here. It's got 2 battle fleets and a key abduction. This has an EMP blast to deal with artifacts, which is pretty cool. A couple of squawkers. Martians make bad allies, so that's a way to purge your creatures. Seems like maybe a little bit more aggressive Mars. And then in Logos, library access, interdimensional graft. Reverse time is pretty interesting with that library access. If you can pull it off right, you're getting a lot of value. And then some Quixos, Brain Eater, Spectral Tunneler. And yeah, in the shadows, 2 routine jobs. That's pretty brutal. With Bait and Switch, Relentless Whispers, Archon, just a lot of steel. 30 expected amber there, that's really high, and 19 speed is nothing to sneeze at. Made top 8. Then we have, and that was run by Dr. Sheep. Then we have Fabulousing, running Legifin of the Skeptic's Pub. This is a mass mutation deck. 2 Infernuses, Essence Scale, Mind Fire. What have we got in the logos? Autovac, kind of just fast stuff here. Discombobulator for some hate, steel hate. Daughter with an Amber Pip. And then, oh, the Saurians, where the magic's at, I think. Amphora Captura, Spoils of Battle, Axiom of Grisk. So it's doing a lot of board control, I'm sure, there. So yeah, good stuff there. And lastly, Magic Duck was made top 8 running Moleman Remus, Grave Archivist, which is another mass mutation deck. Lots of mass mutation here. This one has a Legacy Lash of Broken Dreams, and it has the Sin setup. Just 3, though, I think. Greed, which draws you more cards at the end of your turn. Pride, which can ward the sins. And Wrath, which is 3 power, 3 armor, taunt, poison, skirmish. I think, yeah, those are the only 4 sins. Skixuno is some interesting board control. Techno Fiend, love to see that. Stirring Grave, no Infernus in here. Refreshing. And then in logos, we've got an auto encoder. Terato could be interesting in non-mirror matches. 2 standardized testings, Effervescent, and then in Sanctum, wow, 2 free markets, a Cleansing Wave. That could be pretty good. And Master of the Gray is an interesting control card as well. It prevents your opponent's bonus icons from resolving, which is very interesting. Yeah, well done to everybody at the Philly Vault. So I'm going to move on now and go to U.S. Nationals, which was the next event, and that was in Indianapolis, and I actually got to play in this. I did not make top 8, so keep that in mind when you're listening to my advice. But yeah, so here in first was Nova running Jacques Ombre, Lord de la Station. This is a 91 SAS Worlds Collide deck with Dis Logos and Saurian, and it's interesting and a bit brutal. 3 E-Dies make for really effective stalling of your opponent, along with setting up a lot of archives, and there's 2 Tau Tau Vapors to also set up archives. Some other cool tricks too, like Twin Bolt emissions and information exchange. And then in the Dis, you have 2 Infernuses, which can be great for purging your opponent's good cards. You can also purge some of your own if you're wanting to thin out a certain way. And then a couple of Exhumes that are good for the Infernuses, but also good for the E-Dies. Hysteria, very interesting in the right situation. And then Greater Octet is super good because it's taunt. It starts at 4 power, but it starts getting bigger right away, and it enables you to start to purge cards out of your hand at the end of every turn, which builds up to you having a better deck than if you were not purging those things, ideally. And then an interesting Saurian. I think Saurian is not the centerpiece here, but 3 Odoacs is nothing, and 2 Imperiums, an Axiom, Phalanx Strike. There's some good stuff in here as well. All right, let's move on to the runner-up. This was Vermont Gamer, and Vermont Gamer was running Psycho Rubios Gardviville Thrall, which is a Winds of Exchange deck with Mars, Saurian, and Unfathomable, and a Grunt token. And this is certainly at this point was the highest. Yeah, I actually think this is across the board the highest that WoW has gotten so far. Is a runner-up finish, but yeah, this is a great finish for a Winds of Exchange deck. And this one is, let's see, so we've got the Grunt token, which is really interesting because it's just such a, it seems so boring, right? Just 3 power, no special text. But when you have support with cards like Psychic Network, 2 Psychic Networks here, so all these sitting on the board suddenly enable steal. When you have good token generation, um, and then even replay pod is great here because what it means is that when you tokenize something, when it's destroyed, it's going to go under that replay pod, and later on you can get those cards back. So that's really strong. Yeah, it ends up being pretty nice, and you have like Mix the Tall-Minded as well, which can increase key costs with those things out. Interesting pips too. 2 draws and a capture on the mix. 5 draws total in Mars. That's pretty cool. Then in Unfathomable, I'm going to skip over there. We have a Legacy General Sherman. That's a very interesting board clear. 2 Fathom Reavers, which are really nice against combo decks, especially with a beefy token that's likely to stay out on the board. 2 copies of Befuddle, very nice. Catch and Release can be pretty brutal as well. And then Kelp Minders, they're just these 5 power bodies. That's again kind of boring, but can be strong, I suppose. And then here in Saurian, we have Epic Poem, which can really make good use of cards like Recruit and, no, sorry, not Recruit, but Symposium and Aquilia and even Ballistega, which can exalt itself when it comes out, and 2 Capture Pips in-house and a Faust. So just really good synergies. Pompatus, amazing. So really good synergies within each house, and some cross-house play. Strong Amber generation, really solid Amber control as well. Seems like good versatility. I can see how this would struggle on the creature control, although there's a strong amount of disruption that probably helps make up for it. So great job to Vermont Gamer. Yeah, there you go. And then next in the yeah, it's worth saying then both Nova and Vermont Gamer got Worlds invites from that. Congrats to you both. And then we have the top 4 consisted of Second Act playing Second Act who lionizes Helium. Very cool swag there, playing your named deck. And this uses a Scholar token. And we can see in Saurian we have just 1 Legionary Trainer, but that's still pretty great. Oh no, 2 Legionary Trainers. I was wrong. Yeah, so 2 Legionary Trainers with a Scholar token. That's amazing. 2 Arm the Plebeians. Recruit. Symposium. Yeah, there's good stuff here for getting some scholars on your Saurian turn. Interesting board control in Mars with 3 ammonia clouds. Destroy them all gives you some artifact control as well. Memrock's the red. Love that, although we only have 1 scoop up to go with it. 2 copies of Ironics Propaganda, which actually that's very interesting because if you put that on a scholar and it survives, suddenly you can reap with that scholar to create a new scholar who comes into play ready because of your Legionary Trainers. That's pretty amazing. And then in Unfathomable, we have 3 Befuddles, so good, an Abyssal Sight, a Dragnet, Adult Swim. Wow, just brutal, brutal stuff. So yep, well done to Second Act. And then we have Big Z playing Pink Jacket again, and that we already talked about this deck, but it got to top 4. On to the on to the top 8 we have Xander for to win playing Donovan of Jarrus Treadhaunt. This is a classic, well-known deck here. It's a Coda Dis Logos Shadows with 4 routine jobs is probably the most in your face thing about it. So steal 1, steal 2, steal 3, steal 4 if they come out in that order, and some more steal 2 with a Relentless Shadows and Ghostly Hand. So just a lot of amber, a lot of expected amber there. Neutron Shark, that's pretty cool. Effervescent Principle. Library Access, Phase Shift can even get you, some steal as you're burning through a bunch of cards, and then a disc package with Control the Weak, Gateway, Poltergeist, more artifact control there. Dominator Bauble, Screaming Cave, fun for getting back to good cards if you already burned through them, and some other interesting creatures. Nothing too control-y other than the Control the Weak, but the Amber control is insane here, and pretty good board control as well. All right, then we had Ewok JR on Smoke. This is in Thai, but we call it Smoke, and it's also a well-known deck. Mass Mutation, and it's Dis Logo Star Alliance. So this one, he knocked me out in the Ewok knocked me out in the I think the final round before making Top Cut. So he was able to Mark of Dis me into the ground. Wait, no, did he not? Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I thought he was able to. He definitely got some good value with the Cyberclone. But did not mark me. Oh, that's what he did. He got me with Infernus. He held Infernus. He played one but held the other, and I played right into it. It was gross. So, and lost my Infernus. Yeah, and then, oh, he got my Marks of Dis. That's what happened. Yep. Anyway, pretty brutal. Let's see. We have here 2 subject Kirby's, Garcia, just a pretty fast to get things out of your hand. Star Alliance, a pretty fast to get cards into your archives and hand. Logos, and then a really solid Dis. We have Dr. Sheep playing Admiral Insling, the Pink Fraud. We already talked about that one. And then Ryan Chakajoda. No, sorry. Wrong event. Ben the Monkey playing the Ooze that trains all 3 houses. And this is a Winds of Exchange deck with a Warrior token, 3 Berserker Slams. Probably the most interesting thing is the 2 Talent Scouts, one with an extra Amber Pip on it. There's a lot of steel, generous offer. Is that all the steel? Oh yeah, Hypnotic Command, 2 Xanthix Harvesters, 2 Ragnarok Preps for Amber Control as well. So yeah, just really interesting stuff, and it's pretty strong. So yeah, and well done to Ben the Monkey playing that. All right, on to. So that was U.S. Nationals. Then Roseville happened. Roseville was next. And Roseville was won by June playing Becky Axel Gentroflow. This is a 78 SAS Mass Mutation deck with Logos, Shadows, and Star Alliance. 3 Cronuses, so a lot of ways to archive stuff for later and have some power turns. Autovac, Mutagenic Serum I could see going off really nicely. Nell with a bunch of upgrades. Borrow, look at that speed, 24 and 18, only 18 expected amber, but when you're at 24 speed, that's still a heck of a lot. And lower creature control, but some hard artifact control, which is important. Not a lot of disruption, but I can see how if this just gets to do what it wants to do, then it's gonna have a strong chance to win. Lights Out actually is some nice disruption. Yeah, slows the opponent down. Um, yeah, seems good and did well. So congrats to June. And then second place went to Ewok JR, running the ooze that trains all three houses that we just saw from Nationals. And then, so June and Ewok got Worlds invites there. And then in the top four, we have Flaming Hobo playing Jaonos Sister Batwing Kuer, which is a Winds of Exchange deck with Brobnar, Equidon, Unfathomable. And I should actually say that's actually two events that Winds of Exchange got second at. So yeah, well done to both Vermont Gamer and Ewok JR. Yeah, so Jaonos, too generous offer, a closed door negotiations, auction off for some artifact control. That's really nice. It does some interesting things with Tourist Trap. And then Bryozark, two Befuddles, very interesting stuff in the Unfathomable, does good work. And then, yeah, two Ragnarok Preps, Rant and Rive, so strong artifact control in the Brobnar, player control in the Unfathomable, and Amber control as well in Equidon. Then we also have JK007 playing an AOA deck. This is the highest AOA has gotten so far this year, is top four. Playing Brutus, Boss, Crystal Pistol, Loken. That's a pretty funny name. And what do we have here? We have obviously the Mars is the thing, two Martian Generosities, and a Key Abduction. So that can loop and forge all three keys in one turn. If you get to enough Amber, destroy them all is good for some artifact control. And then you have other good stuff too. Collector Worm, Mind Warper, Nizic Resonator. That's all great stuff. A helpful logos here. Two memory chips, Igor, Helperbot, Sutterkin, two Titan Librarians. So potentially you're archiving 4 cards a turn, maybe even more with the, yeah, oh no. Yeah, so you're potentially archiving 4 cards a turn, which actually sets it up to where the Martian Gens would not have that much to loop around to. That's pretty amazing. Yep. Replicator could be a second Sutterkin if it needs to be. Bouncing Death Quirk is a really nice tool as well. And then in Sanctum, we have 2 Doorsteps to Heaven, so we can you can slow your opponent down on your way to victory. And then, yeah, some other cool stuff. Prince Derek is fine. But yeah, I think mostly here you're looking at setting up with Logos, holding off your opponent with Sanctum so you can get into the Mars. On to the top 8, we have Bastion 12291 playing Devastatingly Aquiline Halfdan, which is a Winds of Exchange deck with a warrior token. And we have, what do we have? Berserker Slam, Endless Hordes is great. Fresh Marks, Rant and Rive. So a Shattered Throne. So strong Amber control here. Bumpsy. Blood of Titans is fun. No bricks, so you're not necessarily generating a ton of Amber here, though you would generate some in the Brobnar, but definitely holding your opponent back. And then a Mars with 2 Destroy Them All. That's pretty awesome. Mix the Tall-Minded. Ironics. Propaganda. Interesting Mars. But this just seems okay. Honestly, this seems like just a solid Winds of Exchange deck. No crazy combos. And then in Star Alliance, Recorded History for some archives. 4 Secure Droids. Yeah, it just seems good. So well done. I could be wrong. Maybe there's something I'm missing. This seems like a good deck, not necessarily an amazing deck, but Bastion piloted it to a top 8 finish. That's amazing. We have Big Z on Pink Jacket again. Enough said. Richard or RH Hater on Provost Neverweb, the Acerbic Minstrel. This is a Worlds Collide deck with Dis, Logos, and Star Alliance. We've got 2 Infernuses, Imp Spectre, Poltergeist, 2 Not Finished With You, that's very nice. Hecatomb for some Amber generation, that's cool. And then in the Logos, Interdimensional Graft, Entropic Swirl, Information Exchange, Strong Amber generation there, 2 Hologramophones, Edie, Code Monkey, so you can do some cool tricks there. And then in the Star Alliance, a Galactic Consensus, or a Galactic Census rather, Lay of the Land, Garcia, 2 Quadricorders, and Light of the Archons. This seems like a fine Star Alliance, a really nice Logos, and a pretty cool Dis, and well piloted. And lastly, for the top 8, we have Ryan Chakajoda, actually this time, who was running this Winds of Exchange deck. Wow, at 102 SAS, Symbol, Spawn of Jonah Baron, and this is a Scholar deck. Wow, let's see what we have in the Saurian. First, 3 Legionary Trainers, that's amazing. Curious RS, that's cool, that's a legacy. Inspiring Oration to make tokens. Arm the Plebeians to make a token. Ooh, Election, that's fun. And Form of Giants, I don't know if that would do much, but it's fine. And then in the Bravnar, Banner of Battle, that makes your creatures +1 power. That's great. That protects you against autocannon. We've got 3 Fresh Marks, 2 Berserker Slams, Bumpsy, wow. That's a cool Bravnar. And then an Unfathomable for some control here. Fathom Reaver, slow them down. Dragnet, super good. 2 Adult Swims, Abyssal Sight. Timothy, stop your opponent in their tracks. This just seems great. And yeah, well done, Ryan Chakajoda, playing that into the top 8. 32 expected Amber, that's great. All right, so lastly, we will cover the Seattle Vault Tour. All right. So first place at the Seattle Vault Tour was actually Nova again, again on Jacques Ombre Lord de la Station. And actually, yeah, funnily enough, Nova and I got first respectively in Archon and Alliance. Nova and I, yeah. And again in Seattle, but not in the other events. So hey, anyway, so well done to Nova. And then second place was JDG 314 on Chandra, the Probably Complex, which is a Mass Mutation, Logos, Saurian, Star Alliance deck. And this one is Quixelstone with well, it's Quixelstone. Quixelstone with 12 creatures. I think that's really worth noticing. First of all, there's some interesting stuff with Transporter Platform where you can play a creature to put upgrades on, get value, and then bring it back up to your hand and discard it. So pretty decent speed here. Strong Amber generation out of hand, and then let's see. Yeah, just some pretty good stuff. So, and then in the Saurian, some capture. I mean, Amphora Captura really is going to enable a good exile turn, very likely. Exile also very interesting with the Quixelstone out. Can really mess your opponent up that way. And then some artifact control with Animator. Animator can also do some other stuff besides artifact control, like use a creature. Use another artifact. You can even bring the Quixelstone out and reap with it, right? And then it goes back and doesn't count against the Quixel Stone. So there's just interesting stuff you can do there. You can even, and it has this Legacy Igor with an Amber. You can even do cool stuff like Animator, the Transporter platform, to play the Igor twice in the same turn. Just very cool stuff. Yeah, and I lost to this. I think I was maybe JDG's round 3 win in Seattle. So that's why I know so much about it. It was very, very well played, very cool deck, and very well played. Interestingly, I don't think JDG came to play Archon. He came to play Alliance primarily, and then this Star Alliance pod was in his Alliance deck, and so he just decided to play this deck for Archon and got second, which is pretty great. Well done. So JDG 314 got a Worlds invite off of this performance. And then they did have to play Big Z and the Noble One had to play a best of 3 match in the top 4 for who would get the World's invite because Nova already had one, and Big Z got it with the ooze that trains all 3 houses, which we have already seen. It got the win at, or sorry, it was runner up at Roseville and had made top 8 at Nationals, and here it got 3rd. And then 4th was the Noble One on the Pronto Khatoon, which is a Winds of Exchange deck with Berserker, Bumpsy, Fresh Marks, Berserker Slam, good stuff there. 2 Grundles, 2 Ironics Rebels, Memrocks, very cool stuff. Katarina, Martyr of the Vault. Yeah, just great stuff. Membership drive. So 25 expected Amber there, 10 Amber control, 0 artifact control, some good board control. Not a lot of disruption, but just solid woe and did well. And the funny thing is that the Noble One, well, actually Z had opened this up. The Noble One was not planning on playing Archon, and but he opened this up, and yeah, he opened. Well, he didn't, but Z opened this up from the gift bag, the welcome bag with 3 decks for Sealed Alliance, and ta-da! The Noble One decided to play it and made top 4. So well done. And then off to the rest of the top 8, we have Juice Box More Wolf Pack on Solid Bite Licinius Rutilius Adept, which is a Winds of Exchange deck with a Diplomat token. Did not expect that. But interesting stuff. A lot of, wow, so many Amber Pips. A Cursed Relic is providing 6 of them. And then I guess, yeah, Rowdy Scald, 2 Stewards. So many Amber Pips. That's 34 expected Amber. Wow. And then, that's so funny. 11 pips, natural pips, I think, right? Yeah, 11 natural pips, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 enhanced pips. So, wow. 2 Smiths. Yeah, the Rant Arrive is interesting. Memrocks. I think you probably don't want a high token generation score here, but it is decently high, 13.5, but maybe I'm wrong. What do I know? Yeah, very cool stuff. Even an auction off. Nice. Then we have Key of the Lost with The Thing Who Feels Falcons, which is a Winds of Exchange with Skirmisher, Berserker Slam, Endless Hordes, 2 Ranton Rives, a Ragnarok Prep, a Shattered Throne, 2 Grand Gords. Wow, that's pretty cool. The Sanctum seems just okay to me. Membership Drive could be quite good. There is some strong capture with 2 outflanks. An Honorable Claim could get some. Ooh, and then I like this Unfathomable. 3 Befuddles and Illusions of Grandeur, 2 Fathom Reavers. That's just brutal control. All right, next we have Nonfiction playing Valder D Invictutrace, the 99th. Another Winds of Exchange deck. This one with a Berserker, uh, 2 Shock Herders, 2 Ranton Rives. Yep, so good. Berserker Slam. Look at this fish. 2 Befuddles, Allusions. So good. It's so crazy because you think about I mean, Control the Weak is good, and having 2 or 3 Control the Weaks in one deck is good. There are decks with 4. That's also good. Befuddle is also a common, but then you also have Abyssal Sight, you also have Illusions of Grandeur, you also have Watch Your Step. So just a lot of house pushiness in Unfathomable. It's very strong. Fathom Reaver is solid. And then in Mars, we have a Total Recall. That could get some nice Amber generation. Total Recall with Berserker seems really interesting to me as well, right? You clone home to make a token, comes into play ready, gives you an Amber from Total Recall. Same with Mark II Generator. It seems good. I like it. All right, then lastly, we have Red Tooth, who made it to top 8 playing Manius of Sudis. This is another Winds of Exchange, this time with a Defender, which is just a 2 power, 1 armor token. 2 request donations, though, which make token creatures and capture, more capture without flank, and then membership drive to turn those tokens into Amber. Hadroth's Wall's always fun. Looks like a maybe slightly less strong Unfathomable here. Allusions is good. Catch and Release can be quite good. Maelstrom, Timothy, nice. And then a nice Equidon here. Hieron, Pull Up Stakes does interesting work. Ornate Talking Tray. Sandhopper, very cool card. Arbitrage is interesting. Shrewd Investor. Talent Scout, yeah, that's great. All right. Yeah, seems really good. Yeah, interesting. You could even like Talent Scout and then Freelancer the Talent Scout or something, unless there's a better target. But yeah, very interesting. Oh yeah, because then you could Sandhopper back the Talent Scout. That's gross. Oof. All right, well that's it. That's all the top 8 decks from the 4 Worlds qualifying events so far. Congrats especially to Flaming Hobo, Kokujin87, Nova, Vermont Gamer, June, Ewok JR, JDG314, and Big Z for getting Worlds invites for Archon. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out of the next few months. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll get out there and forge some keys.